Live. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Clay and Company podcast. We have a phenomenal guest in the house today, Matt King. Again, the Clay and Company podcast. We've had a lot of people from Ohio, where I grew up, joining us, and today is going to be special because Matt was actually my neighbor when I first moved to Ohio. So shout out to the Hawks Nest crew.
Shout out to Hawks Nest.
Matt, we just had JT and Nate on, so we're running through Hawks Nest. Yeah,
I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but yeah, I saw Lats around here.
Yeah,
see that.
we got the Hawks Nest crew on. So Matt and I grew up together. The only introduction I can think of is we're kind of like teammates in a lot of ways through like a lot of the different whether it's backyard sports or actual sports or like different things in life. But Matt, could you describe to them a little bit before we jump in? Because, guys, the whole premise of this entire conversation is going to be around cryptocurrency. So Matt and I are heavy investors in some of our favorite cryptocurrencies. So we're going to talk about all that stuff today on the podcast. But, Matt, give them a little background and more specifically touch on the band stuff, because I think for my audience, it'd be really cool to hear another perspective from somebody who's out there hustling and grinding and having a lot of success in the music industry. So touch on that a little bit, and then we'll dive into our crypto conversation.
Yeah, so I'd like to start off with, first, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is strictly for entertainment purposes. So, got to lay that out.
Me as well.
I am not an expert. This is just for fun. This is what I like to do. So this is not advice. But yeah,
love it.
My name is Matt King. I'm in a band called 90s Kids. And we're based out of We're based out of Columbus, Ohio here. Yeah, we're kind of like alternative rock, pop rock, I'd say. And yeah, we've been
follow them on Spotify,
Apple Music, everywhere.
Apple Music, anywhere. Yep.
Yeah, we've been a band for about 3 years. We've had some really good growth, and it's been quite the journey. It's been a huge grind. So Clay knows all about the grind.
Yeah, dude. Well, so Matt, real quick on the journey of the band, like when you were younger and you were like into music and stuff, what made you take the leap from like playing a little bit like on your own to all of a sudden being like, I actually want to join a band or create a band and make this happen like for real?
Yeah, so I grew up playing the piano for like a few years when I was in like elementary school. My grandma was like an insane piano and organ player. So like I was taking lessons from her at a young age, and then I started playing the drums when I was in 6th grade, played guitar for like a year, and then I just like quit. All of that, I was really into sports. I played hockey since I was 4. So that was like pretty much like my main focus. Up until like college, when I was done with hockey, I got really into like the electronic scene and like EDM. And I got FL Studio for Christmas my freshman year of college, and I just started like learning how to like produce like on the computer, and like it was god awful. Like it was so bad, but the thing, like, and I knew it wasn't good. Like I was able to like tell myself like, yo, this is like not good, but like I had so much fun like doing it and like learning, and like I consistently felt progress. Like I was getting better. And so, I just spent countless hours on YouTube, just like watching in the studio videos with like Martin Garrix, and I would be like pausing the screen, like taking screenshots of like his screen and be like, what is he doing? It's like so stupid. Like, I don't know why I was doing that, but I was just trying to find any detail I could to like learn stuff. So, that's where the grind like really started, was like my freshman year of college. It was just all YouTube University right there.
Dude, hell yeah. I've learned literally everything I freaking know is off YouTube. I feel like a lot of people our age are kind of like that. But so was it like for you, were you like started picking up, obviously you were interested in music, doing, playing music when you were younger, but then all of a sudden, once you like figured out, oh my God, I'm putting a lot of work into this and I'm having fun with it, that you were like, I think I could go somewhere. Like, how'd you end up finding Corey and the guys for the band? Like, how'd you guys end up coming together?
Yeah, this is actually a funny story. So I was just like producing like EDM stuff on my own from like freshman through junior year of college. And like by the time I was a junior, like I had gotten significantly better. Like my stuff wasn't terrible. I didn't want to put anything out, like even on SoundCloud, because I just like I wanted to wait until I had something like really, really good to like actually like
Mhm.
make an alias and put stuff out. And I just wasn't at that point yet. And this is what's funny is we got a former guest on here, Nate Badner, uh, was good friends with Corey because they were both in the College of Business together at OU. And I guess Nate just like gave Corey my phone number one day, and I had like never met Corey before. He lived in the dorm across from me freshman year, and I think we had like crossed paths like once because he was friends with another mutual friend. But yeah, like Nate knew I was like making music and stuff, and like just gave Corey my phone number, and I just get a text
And
one day.
Corey was like somebody who had another band previously, so he was kind of in that music space too.
Yeah, he had been in another band for like 7 years, like a long time
Okay.
since like high school, like early high school, middle school. But yeah, that band had like just broken up, so he was just kind of like just like getting done with that and kind of figuring out what he wanted to do next. So he like texted me. His name was like, oh yeah, like my friend's like a music producer, like you guys should meet up. So Corey came over to my crappy apartment, junior year of college, and yeah, like we both had our laptops out, and like he showed me some stuff, and like I showed him some music, and then it honestly kind of like after that day, like nothing really happened. Like we were like, yeah, like let's work together, and then we just never did. So like that the whole year went by, and like we were like always sending music back and forth, and like even just like songs we liked on Spotify, and like nothing really came from it. And then it was senior year that next year, like the first week of school, like Corey hit me up, was like, yo, like let's actually like write together. And I went over to his apartment for the first time. We had like the worst setup. Like he had these just crappy speakers in his room. He had like an aux cable that like we had to use an aux cable to like plug into my computer. It was like barely long enough. So I'm over here and my computer was like on my lap, and he'd be like sitting next to me, and we're all just like bunched together. And that's when we started writing.
Oh, Matt, I think you're muted.
Oh,
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 there we go. We
oh,
missed that part.
yeah. So that's when we started writing Classic, which was ended up being our second release. But yeah, like
Oh
after
yeah. Okay.
we wrote that song, we wrote that for like 3 months, and then right after that, he had already had Champagne and Somebody Just as Good as You like done, and then we wrote Adeline in like a week in like November, which was like crazy. So like we
Yeah.
basically had like 4 songs, and then the band actually wasn't even an idea at the point. We were kind of just like making music, not even thinking about it. And then he just like dropped on me one day. He's like, yeah, like I want to make this in a band. And I was like, it's like, yeah, like I'm down. And then he's like, I want to play like live shows too. I was like, whoa, like, because like I wasn't like playing music anymore. Like I knew enough to like produce, but I wasn't like playing instruments anymore at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, like I'm not ready for that. I was like, whatever, like we're not going to play a show anytime soon. So we announced the band in December and put out a song like a week later, Champagne. And it got some like really good traction for like the first week. Like one of the days it got on Discover Weekly on Spotify, and it got like 3,000 streams. And we're like freaking out. And like everything has snowballed since that, because like 2 or 3 weeks later, we got an offer to play at a show with our good buddies now, the Orphan the Poet, and them and Captain Kidd. And that show was like in February. So this was like 2 months after.
Yeah. You guys were just in
Sorry.
a roller coaster then.
Yeah, and we'd only put
Dang.
out one song, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm not ready to play a show at all. Like, so like I just had to start practicing a lot. Yeah, everything since that has just like snowballed. Like Spotify love has been crazy. We played one of the main stages at Bunbury Music Festival, which was like probably the best day of my life. Like that was just nuts.
Yeah, that
We
was
just went
sweet.
on tour last March with our good buddy Fangs, and we went all the way from Chicago up to Boston, all the way down to Orlando. And literally the day we got back, that Monday, was when everything shut down for COVID that March.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's
Dang.
been an interesting journey of how it all came together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been crazy to watch. Like, obviously, like in college, I knew you were making music and stuff. And then all of a sudden, like you said, it turned from EDM to like it's like totally different. Like you were in a band making like actual music that you were able to go and play live, which was
Yeah.
super interesting. But okay, so that's a good background. Like I would say that's been a big piece of your life the past couple years. But
Yeah.
now we have this new thing that's becoming a big piece of your life. Mine as well. It's called a
Yeah.
cryptocurrency.
The crypto world.
The new way to invest for people our age right now. Okay, so but seriously, let's dive into crypto a little bit. Like Muzz and I had Muzz on here. We were talking about a little bit
Great
of things,
guy.
but like
Shout out
I
Muzz.
wanna figure out like I kind of want to take people on a journey, and like I just want to have a full discussion with you, like the same way we always do with our crypto talks. But I want to help, like at least for the people that are listening, explain like how we kind of got into it, what we were seeing, and why we think some of the things that we think, and like it just talking about random topics and the way that the industry is going. So first and
Yeah.
foremost, the crypto asset class as a whole. Like first of all, what do you think about like there's not new asset classes that are invented very often. Like most
No.
people I think are like when you think of asset classes, like what is there? There's gold, I mean there's stocks, bonds, real estate, uh what else? Like I guess
Yeah.
commodities, like maybe would you count gold and oil as an asset class or like those type of things?
Hmm.
But beyond that, like actually the invent of a new asset class is like super, super rare. So to even be alive in a time where like cryptocurrency is becoming a new asset class with a market cap that's almost at we have coin market cap here. It's at like we passed 1 trillion. So like that means that this is an asset class that is like it's just emerging, but it's starting to like take some speed. So I
Yeah.
guess like I mean, is that something that you thought about when you first started getting into crypto, or is that just like an afterthought, like, oh, this is a new asset class, or like, how do you think about that piece of the puzzle?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely how I think about it now. I think at first, I mean, I think if I go back the first time I ever heard about crypto, I think like for both of us was like in high school. Like
Yeah,
Bitcoin was like a thing, but it was like a joke, and it was just like this
yeah.
online currency that like everyone like joked about it. It's like, what is this? Like, oh, I'm gonna buy this in Bitcoin, but like no one knew even how to like get in Bitcoin.
It was like the dark web. It was like
Yeah, it
the
was like the
bad
dark
people.
web. So like, yeah, no one ever bought any. Like, no one, no one ever even had it.
Well,
Well,
so everyone has those weird stories about like, oh, I
yeah,
knew someone wanted X. Like, so we had a friend. I won't say the name, but we had bought like these like fake IDs in high school, or that one of our friends had bought these fake IDs in high school using Bitcoin and ended up having a couple left over because he was going through those those websites or whatever. And then my cousin actually he was buying servers for video games when he was like really, really young, and Bitcoin was like a couple cents or a couple dollars at the time, and he lost obviously all those accounts that he had. But I mean, just random side thought. But yeah, everyone has those kind of like little weird stories.
yeah, yeah. And I think it was like 2017 is when everyone like started taking it seriously,
Yeah.
because it's like, and like a little before that, like my uncle was like really into crypto, and he was like actually telling me about Ripple and like Bitcoin before that huge like bull run happened. And then that happened. I was like, oh my God, like Bitcoin just hit 20K. Like this is like,
Yeah.
what is going on? What is this? And like, even for like the next few years, I like just didn't really pay attention to it until really like you got me back into it. And like, I would
Yeah.
say we started talking about like last April, I think, or in April, May.
It probably even earlier, honestly. It might have even been like around March. Well, so to describe it a little bit better, like the way that I initially had gotten into it, obviously, like I was in I had heard about it from friends and stuff like that, but I didn't think anything of the asset class or even that it was an asset class
Yeah, I didn't
until
even think about the actual concept behind it.
no, I didn't even know what the concept was. I thought it was like literally like I had zero
Virtual money,
idea.
just virtual
Virtual
money. Yeah.
money, yeah. And so I was in an investment class in college. I was a finance major, so I was in this class, and my teacher was like a really, really good investor. Like he showed us a trade on the screen where he had made $30 million. He was like a Wall Street guy and just like came back to Ohio State to teach for a couple years. And he literally showed us that he made like 30 mil on a trade on Tesla, because he bought Tesla when it like IPO'd, and then he had it till it was like $300 or $400. And so he showed us this trade, and he talked about Bitcoin a little bit, and he was like, everybody in the class, it was like right when Bitcoin started to run up from like a couple $100 to like $3,000-4,000. And when it was at $3,000 or $4,000, I distinctly remember him saying, I thought about getting in at like $1,000 or like $800. And he's like, I didn't end up doing it because I thought it was just going to be a fad. And at that time, he was like, it's way too late now. It's $4,000. And looking back, it's like, I mean, it obviously went all the way up.
Those prices.
Yeah, it went all the way up to 20,000 in that year. Like you said, 2017 was that big bull run where it went up. And then it actually came all the way back down like last March. I want to say it was like,
yeah, there was a day where it hit 3,000, and then it was like 5,000 or 6,000
exactly
a minute.
And that was within a year. So in 2017, shortly after I had that discussion, we had that discussion in class about Bitcoin. I was like, okay, maybe I should start looking into this a little more, just because I was curious. I was like, I had no money at the time, like a couple $1,000s from saving up my money from bowl games and stuff. Yeah. And one of my good friends on the football team and we both were super interested in the company Ripple. So we had known about Bitcoin. We started researching into cryptocurrency. And then we started looking at this company called Ripple, because one of this kid's really smart friends had mentioned it. So then we started looking it up. And then as we were looking it up, we were like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. And there was a rumor going around at the time in 2017 where Xrp, which is basically the coin that is associated with Ripple, the company, Xrp was at the time being rumored to finally make it onto Coinbase. And so that's a huge deal for people that don't understand it, because Coinbase is the number one platform that people trade cryptocurrency on, at least here in the United States. There's arguments that Binance is the biggest and stuff, but Coinbase is like probably the most popular and safe bet around here.
Yeah.
And so when Bitcoin Cash, which was like this other little fork in the road of Bitcoin, was put onto Coinbase, it exploded in value and people made a ton of money. So the rumors were going around that XRP was going to hit it. So me and my friends, basically I took my brother's money. I took CJ's money. And then my friends were doing this too. It was like me, Muzz, CJ, and like my one friend from football. I took like $2,000, which is like all me and CJ had at the time. And I put all of it into XRP, but I couldn't create an account on Binance or any of the regular platforms. I had to create an account on like some sketchy exchange, because all these exchanges were getting flooded with volume of people trying to create accounts to buy, crypto, because it was in such a bull market. So anyway, long story short, I buy the crypto. I buy like $2,000 worth of XRP back then, which is funny because it was worth more back then than it is now. So I didn't even have like as many coins. And then all of it ended up getting stolen within a year, because essentially Coinbase didn't put XRP on at the time. So the value ended up tanking back down. So I ended up buying high and like not even really getting anything out of it.
What did you buy it at? Do you remember?
It was the high dollar range, like
God.
190, like $1.90 or something like that was my average entry probably. But at the time, dude, it went up to $3.50. And so we were timing it, and we just messed up the timing because the exchanges weren't letting us on. And so anyway, a year goes by and I'm like, well, whatever, I lost a little bit of money on it. I'm just going to hold this in this exchange and, just let it ride for 30 years, see what happens. And so that was my mindset. But then what ended up happening is I went on to the exchange to go to transfer it to Coinbase, because I was like, I need to get this money off of this sketchy exchange. I go to do it. The exchange is completely vanished. Like, there is no website anymore. It just does not exist. And I like Googled it, and I guess a ton of people lost a bunch of their money on it. And these people are probably just millionaires.
Probably fake XRP.
Yeah, literally, dude. So anyway, that long story short, that's like what got me into it. I was in crypto in 2017 and specifically in XRP. And then I started talking to you about it more this past year, like
April, May 2020.
So I was reinvesting back into XRP because finally I'm out of college. I have a job. I was making a lot of money at the time. And I'm just like, okay, I have all this excess money. I'm like, should I put it in stocks? I mean, bonds, real estate, like where am I going to put my money to make me more money? So as I started looking at it, probably similar to a lot of people, it's like in 2020 alone, they printed 30, or I think it might even be more than 30. It was like 30 something percent of the United States dollars that are ever created in the world were created in 2020. So
That's wild.
once I figured that out, I was like, okay, that's really bad for the US dollar. So you definitely don't want to have money sitting in your savings account. The second option is like, do I want to go stocks? I'm like, hell no. Corona just hit. And basically what they're doing is they're just printing money, issuing treasury bonds to these companies so they can hide the debt on their books, and then essentially stimulating the economy so it doesn't look like everyone got destroyed, when in reality, we didn't even work for like 4 or 5 months. So the economy was going to tank in the stock market. And I was like, well, there's no point in putting it in the stock market right now. Even like it just didn't make sense. And then I was like, I could do real estate, but I don't know enough about real estate. And it seems like I would tie up a lot of my capital and I would have to leverage a lot of debt for that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start looking into crypto again. And then I started getting really deep into it. And that's when I started messaging you and I was talking to you about it. And I was like, man, it just makes so much sense that crypto is the best bet right now. And so like over a year ago, I was just pumping all the money I could back into crypto, and I was putting it into, I was diversifying it originally. I was doing like Bitcoin and a little bit of Ethereum. I did a lot of Chainlink and a lot of like mostly XRP, and then like a couple other coins as well. I was really kind of diversifying. But what were you in initially when you started getting back into it?
So my first ever purchase was actually Stellar on Coinbase. I literally bought Stellar just because I like Stellar Lumens, the name. I like didn't know anything about it.
I had Stellar too.
I didn't know anything about it because you were telling me about like Ripple and XRP, and I was like, Stellar Lumen, that's got a nice ring to it. I'm gonna buy some of that. I didn't like buy a lot, but that was like my first purchase. And then I bought some XRP. I had some Bitcoin. I think I had a Litecoin, and then I had like an Ethereum. I had an Ethereum at $150. I should have probably held on to that, but yeah, I think it was like for like a few months, I was kind of just getting used to like, like Coinbase itself and like just the volatility of the crypto market, because it's extremely volatile and like prices can move like crazy. But I think that's part of like investing just in general. Like you gotta have the experience of just like knowing the market. And like I haven't been in crypto for that long, but like I paid attention to stocks and stuff for like a while to just like, how like the prices kind of move in charts and stuff. So yeah, I mean, just like, over time, like month by month, and like really paying attention to prices of like every coin you can, and just seeing how stuff moves and like why it's moving from like, not just the technical side and like the fundamental side. And you just, the more time you spend in it, like the more comfortable you become in the market. Because, there's a lot of retail investors out there that will just like, they just put $100 in and they're like, all right, I'm just not going to look at that. And it's like, what's the point of putting that in there? Like it's good that you're trying to diversify and like in the new thing, but you kind of really pushed me to like really dive in more, because like at first I didn't put a lot in. And I think the more I started dollar cost, like averaging into like a few different coins, I really was like, all right, well, I'm invested in this. I need to like know what I'm investing in. And then the more I like studied and researched and just like, I follow so many different like crypto people on Twitter and just, getting all
YouTube
these,
too,
YouTube's huge. And just like getting all these different viewpoints, like you literally just learn so much. And the more comfortable you become with the market, and the more you understand like the potential of just blockchain and distributed ledgers as a whole.
Yeah. And I think that's like a big like the people there. I still talk to people who are like, oh yeah, like Bitcoin, like it's just a scam and all that stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
what no matter what you think about any individual coin, if you can't recognize that blockchain, the technology, and like having distributed ledgers and understand what that means of like, hey, the fact that these ledgers are not centralized and that they are completely verifiable from all the different nodes around different places on the world that are not in one location controlled by one entity or person, the value that you can then create out of just that blockchain technology is so crazy. And like, we'll dive into it and the different use cases and stuff here in a few minutes. But like, yeah, you could like, if you think one of the coins is a scam, okay, great. But like the technology overall is going to be as crazy, like disruptive to the financial industry as the internet was to the world. Like it's going to be so impactful to the way that people do business and the way that people transact money and the way that ledgers are just kept in general, that it could be bigger. I always like to compare it to like the internet being, unleashed. Like it was like freedom. First, like the internet basically created decentralized information. It was like freedom of information. Like I could contact you from all the way across the world. You could get, on the internet and see something from someone in China, vice versa.
Anyone could post anything. Yeah.
And so that's the way I feel like this is gonna, essentially it's the decentralization of finance, which is going to be crazy in the long term. But I guess like what have you been like looking into most recently? Like what are you most excited about? Because obviously me and you are we're big XRP.
We're big XRP guys. Yeah. I mean, I think Ripple's an awesome company, and they have an incredibly smart team. And like, if we want to dive into the SEC lawsuit and stuff.
Well, let's walk through that. Like, what's like the logic behind? Because there's a ton of there's a ton of XRP haters, and there's a ton of people that are like, "Oh, Ripple is centralized because Ripple owns a bunch of XRP."
Yeah.
And so let's walk through our logic of why we think this is actually a good thing, and like why we believe that. I don't know. I kind of want to dive into that because I think there's a lot of XRP haters, and it's like the Bitcoin maxis out there that just only want Bitcoin to succeed and whatnot. So why do you?
And I'm
like
by no
Ripple?
means Ripple or XRP maxi. Like I'm like diversified now. Like I have a hefty XRP bag, but like I'm definitely diversified now.
Well, yeah, you want to like. It would be foolish to think that one coin's going to rule them all. Because these aren't meant to be just currencies. They have the ones that, like, if you're invested in it, that have specific use cases. Like, hey, we help do this. Like, hey, we do this specifically. Like, there's probably out of the 7,000 cryptocurrencies or the 8,000, whatever that are out there, there's, I think, 8,385, it says on CoinMarketCap. Let's just say 80 of them survive. That means 80 of them over the next 20 years are going to do really, really well as an investment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for Ripple itself, I think it's solve a massive problem, which is cross-border payments. And like we all know, when you want to send money overseas or just like through like a wire transfer, first of all, there's a hefty fee for sending a wire transfer. And then on top of that, it can take days for it to process. It doesn't just, you send the transfer and it's just like in somebody else's bank account. Like that takes a lot of time for that whole thing to process.
Dude,
and then
it takes that. You know what Ripple, the company, says? They say it takes the fastest way to get money from here to like Switzerland, from the US to Switzerland, is to put cash on an airplane and fly it there.
Fly it over.
That's fucked up. That's
true,
crazy.
Though. It's true. Like if you've sent money like that, like it, and just in general, like bank transactions, like it takes time. And especially, if you go to the bank at 3 on Friday, it's closed, then you got to account 2 more days or whatever until like Monday, till that's going to like get pushed through all the way. So, sometimes you're talking 3 to 4 days before that money can get pushed through.
To even start moving. And like we run on the Swift technology, like that's the ledger technology. And it's just like, dude, it hasn't been updated since it's been invented.
Yeah.
You think about all the progress we've made in the internet days, and it's just like, oh, there's just been no innovation in that area. Like what?
I mean, so essentially Ripple solves that by just, you convert to XRP and transfer it in how many seconds?
Well, so that's the thing. Like what Bitcoin did, like why everyone's so obsessed with Bitcoin, it was the first, it has the name brand and all that, but it can't transact faster than what is it? It's like 10 or 11 transactions per second, or it's like some ridiculously small amount of transactions per second, which if
Yeah,
you look at like
it's
Visa,
yeah. I gotta keep going.
I was gonna say if you look at like Visa or like MasterCard or something like that, it's like they're processing hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. So basically what XRP did is they came in and they said, okay, here's the Bitcoin ledger, here's the way it works. Let's add on two different things. One, we're gonna add on the ability to actually be able to, potentially have this currency act as a bridge currency, which means it can instantly flip between, like it could be the underlying asset to transfer between US dollar to Chinese renminbi, or like you could go from yen to the, whatever different currency you want, it can transact between currencies. But
Yeah,
then on top of that, the transaction speed is so fast and really, really, really inexpensive. And it's still a hard asset, still has all the things that Bitcoin has in terms of being um, actually like, uh, yeah, a hard asset, which basically means that there's a limited supply of it and that over time it gets harder and harder to be able to have it. So XRP, I think, burns like a tiny amount of their like a tiny amount of XRP gets burned per each transaction, but it's like so infinitesimally small. I don't know how to even say that word. It's
we'll
so
just skip
small.
it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's so small though that like it doesn't even matter. But at the same point in time, people are like, oh well, there's too many coins, because there's like something like 100 billion XRP that are out there.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know the
And
exact number, but yeah, it's a big supply.
yeah, there's 100 billion or whatever. And then people are like, well, Bitcoin only has 21 million. So like, obviously Bitcoin's going to be worth more money, but that's like, I don't understand how people think like that, because like, that's just like denoting it differently. Like that's like saying that the denomination for Bitcoin is like, what if XRP was just all of a sudden like, or like Bitcoin, for example, it's like, well, now they have Satoshis, which are like little points. They're like, it'd be like saying there's pennies to $1, to $100, to $1,000. Like the total amount of supply can get divided down by however many people are involved with it. So I don't understand why that's like such a big issue for people. Like, yeah, there's 21 million Bitcoins, but then there's like however many Satoshis make up one Bitcoin and so on and so forth. You could keep dividing it down into, it's like the same way
Yeah,
people own gold. Like you can own tiny fractions of a gold bar. You don't have to own, like there might only be 100,000 gold bars on the planet. And, everybody owns like all these tiny fractions back in the day of gold bars. But that doesn't mean that this, like the supply is like determined based on how many people want it.
hmm
So I've
yeah,
never understood that argument being like super valid. I get it at the start when like the market, the fact that there's a limited supply, the perception of the limited supply for Bitcoin makes it higher. But over the long term, if XRP is actually getting used worldwide for transactions and things like that,
yeah,
and is needed by banks, the amount of supply they have, they need to have a lot of supply.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. They do. I mean, they have the potential to just be global and be used by not just banks, but like everything through
right.
RippleNet. But also another problem with the cross border payments thing is Ripple and XRP. It frees up a lot of capital for businesses because a way businesses get along around these long transfer times is they have pre-funded accounts.
Yeah,
So
Nostro
basically,
Vostro.
so basically, a business will put a certain amount of money in these pre-funded accounts. So when they want to do a transfer, they can tell, hey, the bank, like, dip in there. But that money has to just sit in account and like not move. So like this also allows businesses to, free up all of that capital. They can go back in the business and, work for itself, rather than just having these
Well,
accounts just sitting there with money
that's a
for the only
that's
purpose of transferring money.
yeah, and so that's a huge thing with central banks. So like let's say XRP or Ripple, the company, gets all these central banks as partners. Just the Nostro Vostro accounts, which that's what they're called apparently. Like Nostro Vostro is like the term for like the money that's sitting in these accounts that are pre-funded that need to be used for transactions. just that amount of money in general, if XRP just took that market over and simply just like they were the source, like instead of like the total amount of money that's in those pre-funded accounts across the world, I forget the exact number, but I was listening to a video on this where the guy said that like he was doing the math where it was all the money, if you took all the money out of there, because XRP literally solves that problem just by doing that and funding it with the proper amount of XRP, it would like they would need so much supply of XRP that the price would automatically be $270. That's why there's like that rumor where it's like, oh, XRP is going to go to $270. That's like the reason that's like a conspiracy or rumors, because if it did fund all the Nostro Vostro accounts on the planet, which is obviously really hard to do, hard to get everybody on board for that. But even like, let's just say even they get 50% of that and it's 100, you'd be at like $135 per XRP just for that one single use case.
Yeah.
And the fact that I feel like people don't understand, like this coin costs like 30 cents right now or 40, whatever it is right now. It's currently trading at 38 cents. So the fact that there's any type of discussion that there's a probability that it solves this massive issue, and this is just one issue that it solves out of many, solves this massive issue, and could have the potential to possibly one day hit these big numbers in price. That simple fact alone, if you can have 100x return, even if it's a 1% chance, like maybe there's a 0.1% chance this happens, still worth the investment.
Yeah. And, crypto as a whole, this isn't a get rich quick overnight. Like you really have to have a long-term mindset to like stick in this market. If you really, want to capitalize on this opportunity, there's a lot, especially, with just like day trading being super popular right now, a lot of people, just like, pumps, like we see with GameStop, whatever. There's so many pumps that go on where people just want to throw all their money in and like, make that quick buck. But, and like people do make a lot of money off those and stuff, but it's so risky, and that those can just crash any second. The stock gets halted 5 times and it's just dropping. You're not going to get your orders filled. Like it's risky stuff. And with crypto, like, I mean, you got to go in it with like a 2 to 4 year mindset, 5 to 10 year mindset.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like even like for us, dude, we're, 25, 20, like what, like on earth do we need the money for in a year? Like if you pull your money you put an investment into crypto and you pull it out in under a year, number one, you're getting capital gains taxed, which is an additional 20%. So you better have made significantly more than 20% on your investment, because you're going to get dinged 20%.
Yeah, that's another big part is the taxes.
And people don't even think about the tax part of the tax implications of it. And probably a lot of people aren't even paying them. But I mean, that's like the very first thing is like, one, you have to hold it at least a year. If you're going to plan on doing it, hold it for a year. If not, then like, I mean, you're risking so much to make like such risky trades, and like this is such a volatile class like of assets that it needs time to flesh out and see like what's actually going to happen with it.
I think people just get scared from the volatility, and also the volatility, makes these really fast, like quick gains for people, and people might make $1,000 or $5,000, $3,000 overnight and sell it and be like super pumped, and then they just like want to stay out. But I mean, if you really dive into some of these companies and like what they're doing, their use cases, and the potential of them, like you really need to dive in and understand that, because if you know that and you're looking at it with a long-term mindset, I mean, this is like crazy stuff that is going to be implemented in just everything in the world.
Well,
like
so
very soon.
Let's talk about that. Like in terms of like when you're looking at a company, you're doing research on it, and it's like, because me and you, we're not invested in that many cryptocurrencies. Like we have a handful that we're interested. I only really have, I mean, I only really have a couple at most. And obviously, I think I have an idea of the ones that are going to do well, and I've known that certain ones are going to do well. But I have a strategy, and I'm trying I'm trying to hit certain goals for myself. And some
Yeah.
of them, like, I'm not looking for, 40% returns. Like, I'm looking for the grand slams. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in this space at this time looking to hit the home runs. Then I will diversify once I have a good pot of money. But
Yeah. And nothing against people who like want to go make a 10% return or anything. Like,
no, yeah.
I mean, I support any investing. Like, you're being smart about it and you're making money. Like, I'm all for that. But, some people are a little bit riskier, but you got to be calculated with your risk,
Yes.
and you got to do your research and you got to stay on top of things every single day. So then, those risky investments, you feel more comfortable in them.
Well, and one thing that people don't usually talk about is like learn how to make money. Like if you know how to make money, you are gonna have such a better investment career because you're gonna have more. Like I'm like my whole goal is to be at the point where I can invest 60, 50, or 60% of my income because I only have to live off of such a small percentage of it. Like I
Yeah.
always want to be investing a massive portion of my income.
Hmm.
So I feel like people like are always like they make investment decisions with money they can't afford to lose, and then that pulls their emotions into it, and then they start going in this weird like they're
Yeah.
getting in this weird mode where they're trying to sell and yeah.
Yeah. And it just depends for everyone. Like, everyone's at a different stage in their life and a different financial situation. So, just do what you're comfortable with losing. Like, I put in what I am comfortable with. And like, if I lost it, like, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But it's a
Same.
significant amount to like actually make massive gains in the future
Exactly.
with,
Same. We're in the same boat where it's like we have like we put enough skin in the game to where like if our predictions are correct, it will be massive home runs. But at the same time, if they're not correct, it's not gonna wipe us out. Like where it's
it,
like
and none of these are going to go to zero, you know,
yeah.
and
Oh, maybe some, but over the court, not. I mean, probably not the ones we're in, but some of these out of the 8,000, I believe definitely. But out of our picks, I would agree. Obviously, we've picked ones that we don't think are going to go to zero.
yeah, yeah,
But so I mean, what else are you in besides XRP, or like, do you have any other? I mean, I know you're in Hedera or
yeah.
HBAR.
So that's my big one right now that I'm on is the coin is HBAR. It's by this company called Hedera Hashgraph, and they're basically a public network. Um, they're pretty new. They're not very heard of. I think it's at about 9 cents right now. I started investing around 4 cents, which was, I mean, this was like in the past like few months. But yeah, I think when people just look at it generally and they don't look into it enough, they say it's Hedera is centralized because Hedera has this governing council and it consists of 39 members. I don't think it's full yet. I think they're still filling the full 39. But it's going to consist of 39 industry leading companies that cover all of the different industries. I think it's like 15 different. I mean, it's like LG, IBM's on it, Google's on it, DLA Piper, which is one of the biggest international law firms. So Boeing. So it's a lot of smart minds that are on this council, and they have a really good plan to decentralization. So they're starting off kind of decentralized, but they're doing this. They have a whole plan to be the most decentralized. So when you really
Mm,
look at their plan, it's like, okay, like this all makes sense. So they're proof of stake. So like proof of work versus proof of stake. There's like Bitcoin is
yep.
proof of work. Yeah.
So is
So
Ethereum. They're talking about like taking Ethereum 2.0 to try to make it.
mhm.
They're trying to make it, I believe, proof of stake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, do you know how
So
to describe that for people that don't know? I mean, I know it's kind of confusing.
yeah, it's kind of confusing. I mean, essentially, proof of stake is the stake is what creates the finality, right? With the
Yeah.
consensus, to where proof of work is the mining and solving the equations and the transactions. So proof of work is extremely inefficient. It takes a
it's
lot of
backed by like computer power, essentially.
yeah, yeah.
Like how much computer power do you have to mine, aka to solve these little equations on the
Hmm.
computer to then verify transactions on the ledger
Yeah.
versus proof of stake, which is I guess like they're actually like backing it up with something rather than just computer power or
So
what's
basically, for there to be like a malicious attack, you would need to hold 1/3 of the entire stake.
okay.
So
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 you
basically,
can't do a 51% attack like you could on
yeah, you can't do a
or
51%.
you could if you well, okay, but that's the difference. Like
It's different, yeah.
if you have 51% of the mining power, you could do a
Hmm.
51% attack on the ledger because you control 51% of the computers that are mining, aka solving the equations for the coin, like Bitcoin, for example.
Yeah.
And like one of the arguments is that, I think 50% or more of the mining power for Bitcoin is centralized in China. So like
Hmm.
everyone's like, oh, that's not good. And then,
Because it's permissionless and anyone can create a node, which most and all are permissionless. But with Hedera, they're starting off permissioned. So basically, they have a 15-year distribution plan for the HBAR itself, and that the point of that is to have wide distribution of the currency over time.
Mhm.
And you start out permissioned, and I think it's going to be actually is going to be each of the council members. That's one of their things is they have to host a node. So they're going to
Okay,
start
so they're
out.
having different like companies be council members.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like your IBM, Google, like all those. Yeah, and they
So
will all
these
host.
are big companies too, like
These
you
are the
said,
biggest companies, yeah, in the
are
world,
hosting nodes for
and
HBAR as an
they will
as
be hosting the nodes. Yeah, it will be permissioned, and slowly over time, they'll start having more people run nodes. But these are going to be people who like apply and who are verified by Hedera.
mhm.
So slowly, there's going to be more and more nodes, but it's verified people. And then eventually, once you have the wide distribution of coins, you can go completely permissionless, where anyone can have a node. But the currency distribution is so widely spread that for somebody to perform a malicious attack, they're going to need 20 billion coins, or they're going to need to spend
Which is
like
going to be
20. You'd have to spend $20 billion to like attack. So first of all, that's just like it's almost impossible if you really think about
but
it.
couldn't a company like Google attack if they wanted it? But obviously they're on the council, so it wouldn't be beneficial for them to attack, but
Yeah,
is
yeah. I
that the
mean,
theory though? Like Google is not going to attack, that's why we're having them on the council type thing?
yeah,
But
yeah.
then wouldn't you
I mean,
say
if you want to look at it that way, like I guess yeah, technically, like people in the council could like you know do that,
but
but
obviously you wouldn't let people on the council as the company had like Hedera wouldn't let people on the council if they thought they were going to attack, obviously.
mm-hmm.
But here's
Yeah,
the thing. So this is a cat and a mouse problem because if you go fully permissionless, you'll have the situation, which is what's happened to Bitcoin, which is uh, people who have the most resources in the world are going to set up the most powerful mining shops, aka
mm-hmm.
that's what China did ahead of the US. They wanted to
Yeah,
get a jump on the cryptocurrency game. They put a shitload of resources. It's terrible for the environment. Um, like how much energy it costs to do this
yeah.
mining.
It's an absurd amount of electricity.
Well, so China, from a permissionless perspective, owns a ton of the nodes that do, or a ton of the mining capabilities for Bitcoin. And so, like, if they had 51%, everyone's like, well, they're fully decentralized. Like, each mining station is like totally different. The problem is China is a communist country, which means at any point in time they can control whoever they want within that country. So if they wanted to, they could go to every single miner in the country and control the individual miners. This is where
Mm-hmm.
things get kind of out of
Yeah,
hand.
that's a touchy subject there. I've heard both sides of the argument. I
Same. But
won't
I'm
dive
just
too
laying the
far into that
argument
one,
out. I'm
but yeah,
laying the argument out for people.
that's definitely a perspective for
But
sure.
then, but then now what we're saying is this new HBAR, which I don't even know what the use case of HBAR is going to be, but we're saying HBAR instead of starting off fully permissionless, where anybody could, it's like a land grab for the amount of
Yeah.
computing power. Well, first of all, it's not even based on computing power because there's proof of
Just proof of
stake.
stake.
And then they're basically saying, hey, you're gonna run this node, and they're permitting people onto their
Yeah.
essentially onto their technology, and they're saying each one of you guys can individually now go and run your own nodes for this network. And
Yeah.
so it's decentralizing it between all these people, but it still could be in the hands of a couple big players. And so
Yeah. You'll
there's
have your
always,
people that are gonna be like, oh, the massive industry companies, they're gonna take over. But
which they already have taken over everything.
and besides hosting a node, like they don't have any other incentives for they're on the council. They're not being paid like extra. You know, they'll get rewarded an HBAR for the node for running the nodes and like the consensus and stuff, but there's nothing else besides that.
Okay,
And
so
the
here,
way
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way basically their path to decentralization is the way they're doing it that way is so it's like super secure at every point in the step until they're fully permissionless. So
I think Bitcoin nailed it well, because I think if you were to do it nowadays and you wanted it to become big and a usable currency, you'd have to do what Hedera is doing. I think
mhm,
Bitcoin, whether you could call it lucky or like timing, Bitcoin, the timing and the nature of the way that Bitcoin was unveiled, it kind of was lucky that, I mean, it depends how much China really has, how much power they really have, but it was kind of lucky in the sense that they did fully permissionless and it just kind of worked out. Like the way
yeah,
that it worked out, like that it
mhm,
wasn't all centralized in one area. Like it kind of worked out well for Bitcoin, which is kind of like a unique lightning in a bottle type of a moment. But let's talk about that real quick in terms of like the XRP thing, or the centralization thing. People talk about XRP being centralized, being a centralized currency because Ripple, the company that unleashed the XRP ledger, the technology into the community, they own a massive amount of the supply. And so it's almost the same question as Hedera, as even though there's people on the council for Hedera don't actually own necessarily mass amounts of the supply, I'm sure they own probably a good amount, or they will.
mhm.
Um, with Ripple owning a lot, what do you think about that? Do you think that they have control just because they own a lot of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really. I know that's like the big argument with calling them centralized, and I honestly haven't even really looked into that whole thing that much. But I
So
don't I don't really think so.
so this is my understanding of it, and they use this as a rebuttal to the SEC. They basically said, like, in terms of, because we own a lot of this asset, or this they like to call it a currency, or rather they're comparing it almost to a commodity. So they like to say, for example, does Exxon, or one of those big oil companies that goes and owns the oil rigs that pulls oil out of the earth, like, do they own, um like, do they control oil, is essentially the question. Like, do they control all of oil? Well, they own a lot of oil, like they own the places to get a lot of oil, but they're not in control of the actual commodity itself and the way that it flows and is used. And
Hmm.
so uh, they think of XRP as a currency, and the ledger is fully open source and decentralized. Anybody can build upon it,
Yeah.
and they literally can't do anything if everybody on the ledger votes a certain way. So there was a guy, one way to prove that it's not centralized is the fact that if everybody on the ledger like voted to burn a certain amount of XRP, like if they wanted to vote to burn all of the XRP that Ripple owns, and and over, I think, 50% or whatever votes for it, then they technically could burn all of that amount. So to say that they just like own a lot of it, and like it's another one of those weird questions, like, is that a good thing or is it not? So for me personally, I feel like it is a good thing because they're the company that's been backing it. They're the ones getting all the partnerships with all the central banks. How do you think the network and the market for the actual currency itself is going to grow without somebody really good pushing behind it? You could argue, like,
Yeah.
well, Bitcoin's doing it without anybody, but that's not really like Bitcoin is not getting used easily by central banks, whereas Ripple is actually getting partners that want to use XRP for transactions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and they're going to be having people, build on top of Ripple X who are going to be using the XRP ledger, where
yeah.
XRP will be the native coin for those transactions. So
Well, they need
even
they need a lot of supply to be able to sell to these, or to use for their services, because they have a bunch of services centered around XRP.
mm-hmm.
It's like selling oil. Like you could go sell it to a gas station, or you could go use it for something else, or whatever they end up using it for. There's like different services that Ripple, the company, is planning on using XRP for.
Yeah.
Not only just like it growing in price, but so what do you think about like in terms of like, because this is kind of like diving a little bit more into like conspiracy side of the coins, but like, do you think it's better or worse if they were centralized and the central banks are approving and using it? Because a lot of people, they want decentralization, like they want Bitcoin because they're like, screw the central banks. Ripple's approach is like embedding the central banks to be able to use this currency.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worse if you're centralized. Like, and I don't think that's going to be the case when you have a distributed ledger.
I guess globalism is more of the question. Like, what if XRP becomes like the global reserve currency?
So a monopoly essentially on the.
Yeah. Do you think that's a bad thing? Good thing? It would be a great thing for our investment.
Oh yeah, it would go to the moon.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really know. Like, I mean, I try to stay open to both sides of the arguments, because like, I mean, I know I'm not like there's so much to learn on like not just Ripple itself, but just the whole entire crypto industry.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to, stick super hard with one side when you kind of try to stay in the middle, but it's kind of, you just got to wait and see how things play out.
Yeah. And like the people that, like, I'm almost betting on, like, the people that are betting on Bitcoin, I feel like it's like this. The people that are betting on Bitcoin being like the long-term, I don't know what they're betting on, because it's definitely not going to be used for transactions. It literally can't. But if they're saying that it's going to be a store of value, I totally agree. I think Bitcoin will be used like similar to like gold. Like, it'll be like a way to store money that's decentralized. The problem is then, okay, then what's going to be the thing that helps transact things? So you could think Bitcoin's going to be a store of value, and you could still think XRP is going to be extremely crucial and critical to actually.
They have completely different purposes,
Exactly. And I think that people that think like, oh, we just want fully decentralized, like AKA, there's like not even an argument that Bitcoin's fully decentralized. I feel like people are underestimating these central banks. Like, if you really think you're just going to be able to take away, like, these are the people that control everything. Like, the people who control the money control everything else. Like, they're obviously going to need to have a hand in this, or are going to do everything they can to stop it from happening.
Well,
so that's why.
And I don't think it obviously should be fully centralized, but I do see your point, and like there needs to be a little bit of of that aspect, and put them together. I think Hedera kind of does that with their governing council too. They're taking the most experienced and smartest companies in the world from every single industry, and they're putting their brains together.
Yeah, I'm not even asking like what is right and what is wrong to do. I'm simply saying what's the better investment. Because if you look at Bitcoin and you're like, if we're betting that the central banks are going to lose, I think that's a bad bet. I feel like the better bet would be to bet on something that's incorporating the central banks.
Yeah.
These are the people that control everything. Like, if you want to make the most amount of money on the investment, regardless of what your thoughts are on, globalism and where things are headed, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about what's the better investment. And if you think that central banks aren't going to play a role in what's about to happen with cryptocurrencies, you're like they're gonna do something. Like they're gonna be
Yeah.
involved in some capacity.
And I'm like still pretty bullish on Bitcoin. Like I think Bitcoin's going to keep
Agree.
running and running, and Bitcoin's the first. Bitcoin has the name,
Totally
and
agree.
it's just reaching crazy price levels. But
It'll be the store of value.
it is
But
extremely inefficient, and even Ethereum, who's what is the number two coin, is
yeah,
being hit hard by that inefficiency, and they're trying to switch to proof of stake right now. And back to Hedera, Hedera, we haven't really talked about tokenization yet, but there's companies that are starting to switch off of Ethereum to Hedera's network because Hedera has a tokenization service, and Hedera is processing transactions and reaching consensus in 3 to 5 seconds. And on their website, they can do 10,000 plus transactions per second. They all have also have like a fixed fee of like 0.0001 cents is like
wow.
the fee when you go and transact with Ethereum. I mean, those gas fees can be like insane.
Well, so what is Hedera trying to solve? What's their like proposition?
So
Are
so
they
basically
transactions as well, like similar to XRP?
so basically they're just like a network to build off of, and it's like time stamping and like essentially is it's kind of like confusing, and like I'm still kind of trying to learn, but from like most of their use cases, it's people are building on top of their network and using it in terms of like how secure their network is. So they
Oh,
have
so
their
just
consensus service, they also have the tokenization service, but I mean they're extremely efficient, they're extremely secure, and it's
they're
extremely
basically
scalable.
betting. They're basically betting on the network. Like they're selling that we have the best, most
Yeah,
secure network for you to build off of.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
There was a use case about 2 weeks ago. I saw it's this company called, I think, Everywhere or something, and they do data tracking for the COVID vaccine. So they're basically, they built on top of Hedera's network, and they're storing all their data on Hedera's ledger. So they're basically tracking all the temperatures of the COVID vaccines in the refrigerators, and so that's all stored on the ledger. So all of that is verifiable and credible, and it can easily be exchanged with throughout the whole chain of
Interesting. So they're not even really. So they could be data storage. They're not for currencies exclusively.
yeah, definitely. I would say like data storage for sure.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So then, um,
But
like,
yeah, they're aimed at working with big enterprises to build
okay,
on their
that makes
network.
sense. Yeah, which I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. I think when you look at a company, like when you're looking at a cryptocurrency, like you need to look at like who's the team, what's the team look like that's behind these people?
Yeah, and also I just saw the other day Chainlink is actually building on Hedera. I think they're building like a smart contract thing on Hedera, which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy in itself. You look like at Chainlink is like, you know, booming right
Yep.
now, and they're working with Hedera. So
Yeah.
Hedera
Yeah.
has like some pretty cool use cases right now, which you don't see a lot of use cases with some of these other smaller coins, especially
Well,
when
so
it's
I was just gonna say, like, back to the smart contract thing and the tokenization. Like, so we talked about Ethereum. They're like
mm-hmm.
kind of in a weird area where like they're kind of blowing up. They're blowing up right now. Actually, they're 20 up. They're
Yeah,
up
just all-time
27%.
high.
Yeah. So Ethereum's blowing up right now. And the talks is they're going to switch to Ethereum 2.0 because proof of work doesn't work and they want to
Yeah.
eventually do proof of stake. But essentially, what Ethereum does, they're the second biggest cryptocurrency. They're the instrumental platform in helping other companies build use cases for smart contracts, which is basically like untrustable ways of converting like a contract basically working. So, like if me and you had a deal for real estate, for example, I wouldn't have to trust that you would, send me X amount of money and put the deed in my name.
Mm-hmm.
The system and the ledger would automatically do it upon whatever we agreed upon. That could be
Yeah.
like one random use case that somebody builds on the Ethereum network. So they're basically like that. The whole concept of smart contracts is like, I don't need to trust you and you don't need to trust me, but we can have an agreement, and like I can guarantee that this is going to happen upon set rules. So like if we're
Yeah.
on, you know, like eBay, I'm like, I'm sending you money, and I'm like, I hope Matt sends me, you know, this t-shirt or whatever I bought from you on eBay. And obviously there's probably ways on eBay where people can like try to prevent that. But essentially this is like fully trustless, and the means of like, it's once the rules are triggered, the contract is then enabled.
Hmm. Yeah, and all the history and everything is there on the ledger and verified.
Verifiable. Yeah. And so that brings me to like the tokenization stuff that you were telling me about recently, where it was like you were looking into like, it was like NFTs or something.
Yeah. Do we want to go into that subject now?
Whatever you did,
The
whatever.
transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like I mean, you and me have kind of talked about the idea of tokenization, and like, I
Mhm.
think there's always the example of like tokenizing a piece of art,
Yep.
and the whole concept is like eventually everything you'll be able to tokenize anything.
Which
And
means it'll be on the ledger verified that it is yours and belongs to you. Like you are the owner
yeah,
of it.
so there's this huge movement right now, and it's been a thing for like a couple years now, but it's really starting to get a lot of more traction. But the whole concept of just like NFTs itself, which is a non-fungible token. So it's really big in the digital art world. So there's these platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, and Nifty Gateway, and there are these platforms where, um, like OpenSea and like, or I know Rarible, like anyone can go on and create a piece of digital art and put it up
Yeah.
in the marketplace. And to go back to Ethereum, so all these are like built on Ethereum for the most part. Nifty Gateway is actually, I think, the first and only that you can buy with a credit card. But all these other ones you have to buy with Ethereum. So there's definitely kind of like a barrier to entry that I think they kind of got to get past that to really, boom even more.
Yeah.
Because not everyone has Ethereum or, you know, Ethereum wallets. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to get somebody to like, hey, do this, but you have to go buy Ethereum. And
Yeah.
Ethereum, like people will just look
Friction.
at you like, no, thanks.
Like what?
But yeah, like, I mean, a lot of these artists are starting to make digital versions of their art, and you basically tokenize it, and it creates that contract, and it creates you have the whole entire history of that digital artwork on the ledger.
So
So
it's like having those things back in the day where you have like a real autograph thing, and it's like, you know, people verify and they're like, yeah, this is a real
yeah,
autograph.
you'll get like a certificate.
Yeah.
But even to that point, and to
It's
even to paintings, there's never 100%,
exactly
um, like you're
verifiable.
never,
Like,
yeah, it's not 100% verifiable. No matter if you have that certificate that you got at the sports memorabilia store, or you won this painting from like this verified auction, how do you know 100% sure that that wasn't forged and there was some shady stuff that went on like years ago where they swapped it out and somebody got paid a lot to like have this forged,
so
and it's still running around as a real thing? Like I mean,
mhm.
there's a lot that it's like, it probably is definitely the real thing, but you can't say for 100% that it is. To where with digital
So
art and you have these contracts, like you can see who created it, and you
mhm.
see all the history of the ownership, all the history of all the transactions of buying, selling, trading.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think
And they create limited supplies of it, right? Like if they sell a piece of artwork, they're like, you told me the other day there was an artist that came out with a song and he sold 1,000 shares or 1,000 pieces of his song,
mhm.
and there will only ever be 1,000. And so like it's almost like trading cards. It's like the same game, but it's
Yeah.
gonna be like that with everything.
Yeah, so that's where I actually really started getting into NFTs just like 2 weeks ago, because there's this DJ. His name's Blau. It's 3LAU, and I've been like a huge fan of his for like like pretty much since I was a freshman in college. I've like been following him, and he has like a pretty good financial background. Like he turned down a huge finance job out of college to like pursue music, and he's always been very a big proponent of crypto on Twitter. So I had heard him talking on Twitter like 6 months ago or so about some new streaming platform that was involving crypto and like getting paid on crypto. And I just randomly thought about that, and I like went to his Twitter to like, try to find that. And I found like one of his most recent tweets, and it was like, songs dropping. This is my first drop on Nifty Gateway. Like it said something about tokenization. I was like, tokenization. Like what's going on here?
Yeah.
So it was actually Nifty Gateway, which is one of the newer platforms. Well, I think they've been around for 2 years, but they were recently acquired by Gemini, which is the Winklevoss twins, and like Facebook. So what they do and what Blau did is, so what Nifty Gateway does, they pick which artists they work to. Because you on Rarible, OpenSea, it's just like a massive marketplace of stuff. Like it's almost hard to navigate. There's so much stuff. But Nifty Gateway is cool because they choose and they pick the artists who they work with, and you have to like apply and get accepted. And they do these like limited drops. So they have like this tab that's drops, and like it's pretty much like, it's not every day. Like I don't think there's one tonight, but pretty much every day there's a drop with an artist. And it's like they do a collection drop with this artist who's like gaining traction, or it's like a notable person or like a celebrity.
Yeah.
And it's all digital art. So basically Blau released a song. It came out on Spotify, came out on all platforms. But he created 150 like tokenized versions of the song, and he created like visualizations with it, like these digital visuals, like 3D art, like super cool stuff. And there's 150, and after those 150 are bought, that's it, and that's all of them. And like you don't get any rights to the song. It's more of like a collectible. And I think that's like what digital arts help people. It's hard for people to grasp, is like, oh, I don't own anything physical. You know, people are like, oh, I like want a physical thing, like whatever. But there's a huge market for this. And like, I've been on Nifty Gateway every night watching all the drops, and they literally sell out in seconds. Wow. And in like Nifty Gateway, like you have a social profile, and you can have all your collectibles shown. And it's like, and that's super cool. Like you could be one of 150 people in the world that own like a piece of Blau song. Mm-hmm. And there's a marketplace, so you can go and you can resell it if you want. So, you know, say like Lil Nas like dropped a piece of Old Town Road, like he tokenized Old Town Road, and this was before he blew up. Song blows up, like that thing's gonna appreciate like crazy. Mm-hmm. Like you might have bought it for $1,000, and somebody's gonna buy that for $100,000. There's just like only 100 of them.
Same thing as Pokemon cards right now.
Yeah, it's just like, eventually there's going to be, you know, everyone's going to have an app on their phone with their digital art collections, and it's this is the same as holding a card in your hand, you know.
That's so interesting. I do get what you're saying, and like eventually everything could be tokenized if you think about it, like even real physical assets. And
there are some of these tokenized pieces that will come with like physical pieces. So Blau did a one of one, so there was only one available, and it was an auction. And you won the digital art, the super cool piece of digital art, and you're the only, it says one of one, and like all of these are stored on the ledger with contracts, so it's all verifiable. If you want to show it to anyone, like, look, like I'm literally the only person that owns this. And this one came with like a massive canvas in real life that he'll ship to you, and it has a QR code that you can scan too that like pulls it up and stuff. So a lot of these people,
so interesting.
So I think what's going to become a thing down the road is, I think everyone's going to have screens in their house, basically TVs. You know, I think they'll find cheaper ways to make these screens so they're not just TVs, but they're like displays. And like you can just, you connect through the App Store, and you have all your art on your screens, and you can interchange through like as many art pieces you have. Like I totally think that's going to become a thing. And I think it's super hard concept for people to grasp right now, because it's not physical.
It sounds weird.
I mean, dude, people are buying these things like crazy. There's things on Nifty Gateway that have gone for $700,000. Like,
holy shit!
Like, dude, the buyers are there. The collectors are there, and it's a super cool way for artists, you know, to sell their stuff.
Yeah, I think I mean tokenization. You could tokenize. I heard someone say like the Golden Gate Bridge, like everyone's gonna own a piece of something. Like like you could tokenize anything. You could be the owner of any of these little pieces of things.
I don't know how that would like, where it's like the government could like tokenize these
Exactly.
things. And so, I mean, they could though. Like the government could tokenize. It's not like you own like the rights to the bridge,
Exactly. But
but
it's the
you
same thing
own
as
a
the
part of
song.
that.
Yeah, it's
And
weird, man.
if you walked into somebody's house and they had a huge display of the Golden Gate Bridge on a screen, and like they're like, yeah, I'm one of 100 people in the world that own this, and you scan the QR code and it's like the legit like contract. That's like that's crazy, and like
It's
people are
weird.
going like people are gonna love that,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah,
people do like
no.
to show off, and people like collecting things.
Well, these are things too that like have no use case. There's also going to be like tokenization of things that are actually usable too. Like they
Yeah.
different like your car, or like you could, sell pieces of whatever you want.
Hmm.
Which that'll be super interesting, but like to kind of like shift over from the tokenization side, because I know like, I mean, that's like one. We've talked about smart contracts, which are crazy. We've talked about the ability of like just the decentralized ledger. So we've hit on that part. We talked about tokenization. We hit on that part. Another part that's like absolutely insane that I don't think people are realizing with blockchain is probably like the number one use case of it is going to be the DeFi part, like the actual decentralized finance part of it, which
Yeah.
is where Spark comes into play. And like, it's kind of the
Flare.
same
Yeah.
thing as smart contracts, which we touched on, but it's a very like specific use case of smart contracts, which is
Yeah.
the company Flare. So for the people that don't know, Flare, basically they're a company that was funded by Ripple. So this is interesting. They're funded by Ripple, and they're a fully separate entity. But what they did is they created essentially a way for Xrp to be able to now have smart contract capabilities. So they built in like a side piece that allows the XRP ledger to enable smart contracts. And so Flare, the company, to be cool, I guess, and to create the market for people who, it's a fork in the XRP ledger. So what that, like, sometimes that's a hostile thing, like in terms of like Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin. Whenever you make a fork in a ledger, it can be like, I mean, technically it could be a hostile thing to do. And you're basically saying like, we don't agree with your version of ledger. We want this version. But what Flare did is they were essentially saying like, we want to have, we're basically teammates with Ripple. And so they did an airdrop to us, which was they gave us 1-to-1 ratio, however many XRP tokens you had on the date of the snapshot date, which is they just took a picture of the ledger and basically assigned everybody who had XRP on certain
Any participating exchange.
any exchange essentially gets one free Spark token. And so basically we just got free new currencies, which is like
Mhm.
wild. There's obviously tax implications and
Do
all
you have
that.
to pay taxes on it? Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion. But so I guess, I mean, what do you think about the whole Spark thing? Like us just getting free Spark tokens?
Well, I think you should keep touching on that, because then we're going to get another airdrop on top of
Exactly.
Spark, which that is
Yeah.
like DFlare or something, which is used to basically it.
Oh,
So you
shoot,
can stake
you
that
lagged out there for a
DFlare,
second.
right?
What'd you
Yeah,
just say?
you just froze.
Oh, there we go.
So we're gonna get DFlare, right? Is like DFlare or
It's
YFlare?
like,
I don't even know.
okay, so they gave us Spark tokens, which already currently it's like trading at like it's like
I
worth
saw
like,
25 cents or something,
yeah, that's
but it's
crazy.
on like maybe one exchange. I don't even know
That means they just
where.
gave us free money essentially. Obviously,
Yeah,
the taxes and all that, but that's insane to me. So anyway, Spark is basically the Ethereum, the smart contract version for XRP's ledger. So they gave us the airdrop of Spark tokens, is what they're called. And then after the Spark tokens, they're giving us a second airdrop they're giving the airdrop to anybody that owns Spark tokens. So you didn't have to have XRP, but if you own Spark tokens, then you get an airdrop that is, I think you're right. I think it's like DFLR. And
yeah,
then
something like that.
once you get once you get that next airdrop, apparently you have like a certain amount of time to exchange it into the market for a thing called like YFLR, which essentially what we're getting at is once you exchange into this, there's a bunch of services from a decentralized finance standpoint that Flare is offering to people. And it's like, basically you take those coins that you have that you've converted and you put them into these different services that Flare offers. So you could put it into, like, one of them is like a loan type of a product. So you put your money into this pool of liquidity for people to basically be loaned out to other people. So what ends up happening is, in order to take a loan, instead of going to a bank, people can go into this pool where people are putting their money in, and they can stake X amount of money to then receive X amount of money back. And they've eliminated banks completely from the process. You don't have to go to a bank to get a loan. You could just take a loan out of Flare, and use or XRP or whatever the actual token is going to be called. But let's just say you took a loan out, and I, as a Spark token holder, have put mine into this loan product. I can now be the bank. That means I can just sit there and earn 6% interest on my money with no risk, because the smart contracts are enabled, which means the person has to pay the money back. It's going to automatically trigger in his account. And if for whatever reason he doesn't pay it back, he has staked a certain amount of money into the pool, which means at the time of the expiration date, it's fully trustless. So like a bank, you have to go there and like you take money from the bank, and then you have to go pay the bank back. And like, that's how banks make so much money, is they're just loaning out money to people. We now could become the bank, which is crazy. You could just take all your money and earn 6% or whatever the percentage interest is on it.
And there is DeFi going on right now. I just know it's a little sketchier at the moment.
Yes,
like
you can put it on
issues, but yeah, it's already starting to like pick up steam, and it's a big thing.
BlockFi, I think, does it already. I think
I think
it's 6% interest if you just hold your Bitcoin on BlockFi or something. That's insane. Like people have to like invest and like, try to fight tooth and nail to get these 10% returns from the S&P 500 every year. And those are not guaranteed. That's like an average over 50 or 80 or 100 years. Imagine like if every single time, like you had $100,000 and like every month you could just make 6% on it. You could just make $6,000 a month or something like that. Like that's insane. Like that's like what people have to invest in real estate, and they have to like go start businesses and do all this stuff. Where if you could find a way to be the bank essentially, and to like allow loans to happen between people, oh my gosh, it's going to be insane. And that's just one of the use cases for Spark or Flare.
I haven't even dove into Spark that much. And I know there's a lot of people that are like hyping Spark Flare up a lot. So that's something I really need to look into, because I think there is something big there.
Well, it's like Ethereum. It's why everyone's so hyped on Ethereum. It's the same thing. It's like Ethereum has all the same potentials and capabilities, but now it's like a war, because Ethereum, like essentially what Spark did is Spark is proof of stake. Same way.
Ethereum's got to figure out, because I know they're trying to change the proof of stake, but I've heard that it's like it's extremely complicated process, and it's like really hard to do. But I mean,
that's Ethereum 2.0, right? That's what they call it.
I mean, they got to make that change. I mean, their gas fees are insane for transactions. Like it's so expensive, and like you already see Hedera. There was just in the news today. This other company is switching from Ethereum to Hedera's network, because like it's just so inefficient and it costs so much to basically. I think that this company is like a software company that tracks the data for like rare items, and I think they work with this like a sneaker company or something that sells like rare sneakers, and basically this company like stores all of the data for it. And they're switching from Ethereum to Hedera because they just said it's literally the matter of $80 fee to $1 fee. Like it's
but everything we're talking about, dude, it's like none of it matters, because the markets are so volatile that they trade on just people's like emotions. They're just like these massive swing trades right now. The stuff that me and you are talking about is like, what is actually going to be valuable 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. And then if we just put our money into that while it's this young and we hold it for 20, 40, 50 years, then we'll actually see if it worked out or not. Like if you put all your money into Ethereum right now and you take it out in like a couple years, you might have made a lot of money. But what if you put all your money into Ethereum and use case wise, it didn't end up being the one that worked out well in 20, 40 years from now? Like, I feel like right now there's like a big discrepancy between people wanting to make quick money and just riding the waves of what people are trending on versus what's actually usable in the long term.
Yeah, I agree.
But so like, what's your plan? Are you planning on keeping your money in for the long haul?
I mean, especially like XRP, I totally plan on like not touching that. And like, I plan on same with Spark, and I'll probably just stake my Y flare or whatever. And maybe I'll get more Spark and then stake more Y flare or whatever it's called. Because like that's just but it's you kind of got to play it by ear, you know. If we get to the end of this bull market and there's
people
like
can't even buy XRP right now too.
Yeah, it kind of depends how much I diversify here, and if we reach the end of the bull market and there's like I haven't seen gains, like I'll maybe consider selling and trying to buy back cheaper. But I mean, I'm gonna be pretty calculated with it. I'm not just gonna sell it to make a lot of money when I know there's a lot of potential down the road. I don't want to risk selling it. It goes down a little and then shoots back up and I miss it. Like that's where a lot of people miss out. So
I think people
lose. You got to be careful time in the markets.
Yes, I was just gonna say I think a lot of people lose a lot of their bags and their money by trading in and out of these things. And in reality, had they just held on, because dude, you're in an asset class that's brand new. Like if you just hold it for like 20 years or maybe if you're older, you just hold it for 10 years. I mean, see what happens then. But like to be bouncing in and out when it's this volatile, like just stack your bags, keep stacking your bags, and then like just let it sit and see what happens.
Like look at Stellar. Stellar like was 6 to 9 cents for like the longest time, and it bounced up a little bit. And I think there are a bunch of people who are like, oh, I'm going to wait till it drops down below 10 cents again. And it just shot up. And now it's just been 25 to 30 cents for like the longest time.
It's 34 cents. Yeah. So like the whole,
who knows if we'll ever see those low prices again? Like maybe, like, I don't know, but most likely not for some of these coins.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like the earlier you can get in, the longer you can hold, in my opinion. It's like when you're in a new asset class, like, it would be different if you're trying to trade stocks and all that stuff. But the fact that this is the situation right now, I think a lot of people are going to get really happy that they made returns of like 100% or like 50% or 80%, sell out, spend their money or do something dumb or try to trade a bunch and lose it all back. When in reality, had they just bought in and held for 10 years, they would see like thousands of percentages return.
Yeah. And I think with this space, like it all comes down to, I mean, there's a lot of like awesome companies out there, like doing crazy stuff and like really, really cool stuff. I think it comes down to just, do your research, find what you like, find a company you're confident in, find coins that you're confident in what that company is doing, and like do your research and invest in those. Don't pick and choose with your eyes closed.
Yeah. So last thing is,
like there's no point of guessing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like finding the companies that have legit usability in the long term, you like legit utility, as well as like actual good teams backing them, like just is super important. But the final little piece of the topic, or last little thing I want to touch on, is what do you think's going on with Ripple right now? Or Ripple, the company, being sued by the SEC, and where do you think XRP is going? What's the prediction? Because a lot of people right now in the US, they cannot buy XRP any longer.
Yeah, it's suspended on pretty much. I know Uphold is like one of the only exchanges you can get on. They were just like flooded with people trying to make accounts.
What do you make of this lawsuit? Where are you thinking?
I mean, I personally think Ripple's going to come out on top. I have no idea how long this process is going to be, but I feel like it's every day you see somebody important come out, or former SEC employee or former somebody extremely smart is like, the SEC has no ground to stand on here. Like Jay Clayton files lawsuit and the day he steps down, like,
Yeah.
And then they're not asking for full clarity, and then Ripple comes and asks for full clarity. It's like, I mean, Ripple, you gotta look at that team of people they've built.
They have 19 lawyers to the SEC has like 3 or 4.
I mean, Ripple will be trying to, I think, didn't they say they did try to settle at one point or something? I don't know. But I mean, if they weren't, Ripple, they are extremely confident they can win this case. And with how big of a deal this case is, like if they weren't that confident, I think this would be looking a lot different right now. But I mean, they're coming out constantly saying like, we are extremely confident that we are going to come out on top. And, I personally agree. I don't know what's going to happen. But,
well, imagine if they do, they get, they win the case, they get declared not a security because that's what it's all about. They get deemed as a currency. I mean, honestly, either way, but let's say they get deemed as a currency, and now there's regulatory clarity for the whole crypto asset class. I think it would be like, you would see it would just shoot up. But the problem is nobody could buy it right now.
Yeah. I mean, so basically, like this could end and we could get clarity that it's not a security. But, exchanges like Coinbase, when Coinbase suspended, they put out like basically a 2-week notice. Like, we're not suspending till the 19th or whatever, 12th or whatever date it was. So like, I'm sure all these exchanges, they're not just going to like that go back on the market.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And
institutions will have a chance to buy it really cheap.
The U.S. is a very small portion of Ripple's. Ripple is everywhere and it's massive. Like, that thing could shoot up before it's even back on like Coinbase here in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think that is most likely going to be what would end up happening is like if they get clarity, it shoots up. People couldn't, like regular retail investors couldn't buy it. And Ripple's openly come out multiple times and said, we're not meant for retail. Like retail investors are not our target market. We are there for institutions, but we did have to sell to retail investors in order to create the market initially.
Yeah. And they've said too, like the US is 10% of Ripple's business. 90% is elsewhere in the globe. I mean, and a lot of that's because of
the non-clarity here too.
Yeah, and how many countries and major markets have come out and say that Ripple is not a security? Like it's everywhere, but the U.S. So that's also in itself like, why here is it not everywhere else? It's not, but here they're trying to make the claim that it is.
Yeah, don't you think it's so interesting? Like people are like, oh yeah, Ripple's or XRP's a scam coin and all this stuff, and like you really think that the one that's actually under fire by like the SEC, like it's so clear that to me that it's like the one that they are the most concerned and or like involved with making massive, because you really think like for all this time, JP Morgan and all these massive companies and banks have all been shitting on Bitcoin. They've been shitting on crypto as a whole. And then all of a sudden now first of all, they never talk about XRP. It's either negative news or they never bring it up in the news. It's like a word that's banned. Like
that's always negative news.
It's either negative or they don't even talk about it. And then the next layer is now they're telling everyone, oh yeah, Bitcoin's a really good idea. Like Ethereum's really, like you can't trust these mainstream media. Like they're ahead of whatever whatever they're telling you to do. I would think the opposite. Like at this point, the times where you see like, if you see time and time again, XRP and Ripple, they are creating these crazy partnerships with all these people. Prices staying the same. Like it feels to me like it's being suppressed or something. But I mean, nonetheless, like we'll figure out what happens after in the long run. Like there's the rumors today that came out of like Amazon, like potential partnerships with Amazon.
Talk about that. There's not too much of that, but there's rumors that. I mean, Amazon and Ripple has been in talk for years, but obviously there's no point of like announcing that partnership.
Yeah.
And until
Ripple
it's
doesn't
ready.
announce half their partnerships. They said until the person, like the partner says to, essentially.
Yeah.
Or until Ripple's probably ready. It's probably both. They probably are manipulating the market.
I can even imagine if they came out and partnered with Amazon. I mean, that would be.
Oh, dude, that news would blow it up. But I mean, like. I don't know. My predictions on it is just hodl, and
HODL,
we're going to the moon.
hashtag HODL, shot moon Lambo.
Because like you can't even like know if your prediction was right or wrong unless you see it through a certain amount of time. Like you gotta.
Yeah,
My prediction wasn't this isn't gonna blow up and I'm gonna be rich in 6 months. It's I want to see if I can create a big return on an investment over 10, 20, 30 years.
yeah. And
So
like we're not XRP maxis. I want to
no,
make that clear. Like I think Bitcoin, Ethereum
yeah,
are going to
same.
be massive. I
I'm a
think
fan of
you're going
those
to
as
see
well.
like what is like Uniswap is getting pretty big, and Polkadot, and
I just look at risk to reward though. Like I think like my whole idea on it is like Bitcoin's already at $40,000. Like you're even if you think
yeah,
Bitcoin's going to do really well, which I do think it will do really well, I don't think it's the spot that's going to have the biggest return over the next 10 years.
yeah. I don't think it's going
But
to outperform some of these that are
that's that are
well
30
under.
cents
Yeah,
that also
and that
have
and
a
that's
lot of backing.
that's why I'm big on Hedera. Is I just think it's extremely undervalued, and not a lot of people know
Exactly.
about it. And they've got like the fastest, most secure, and most scalable network, and they're slowly getting these partnerships starting to build up. And they also have a really good team. It's co-founded by Dr. Lehman Baird, and then this guy is
Mhm.
just. I watched so many interviews with him. He's just a genius. He's a super smart guy. Like there's a few out there that are definitely extremely undervalued where they're going to outperform a
A
lot of these
hundred
bigger
percent.
coins that have the names. And you kind of just got to do
It's
your research, and then
That's why some people
got to get a
diversify
little
and
lucky too. But
yeah, that's why some people diversify and some people don't. Cause like at the end of the day, some like people are gonna get scared out and be out of these smaller coins, and some of them are gonna hit. Like it's gonna be harder to choose which ones. But here's your options. You could make crazy returns if you hit one of the right ones, or you could have good returns on Bitcoin,
yeah,
Ethereum, and those things. So it's like
yeah,
pick your poison. Like, do you want good, or do you want like crazy?
hmm
What's your risk tolerance? What are your goals? And like try to figure it out
yeah,
based on that.
yeah. Like if you don't care that much, just go throw all your money in Bitcoin. Like you're going to make money.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if you want bigger rewards, like you got to
Take more
do,
risk.
you got to take more risks. You got to do research and just
Gotta
stay on top of
hold
it.
longer too. Like people are trying to make quick money on these things. Like
And dude,
that's the other issue.
surround yourself with people who are in the space. And YouTube and Twitter are like
Yes.
the
That's it.
biggest things for me. Like I watch YouTube videos every single day on crypto, and not just XRP. Like I'm like trying to find new coins. I'm not investing in like all these random altcoins, but I'm trying to
Same.
just learn what they're all doing, who's competing with who, like different partnerships. And then Twitter is just like I follow a few people on Twitter, and there's some people slowly over time like, wow, this guy's like
Spot
predicting
on.
everything.
Credible
Yeah, I mean,
crypto.
Credible Crypto is like his technical analysis is insane, and
He's been
like
spot on.
I haven't seen him like mess up once, and if he does, he's like made predictions with two different layers, and like if his one wasn't right, the retracement was right, and the support was like his technical analysis is like really good, and
Yeah.
he also does a lot of fundamental research too, and like you just surround yourself with people like that on and like what they're looking at, and then go on your own and do your research on your own and learn more about it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think you nailed it. I think it's, Twitter and YouTube are the two spots. Like if you're looking at mainstream media or these other, like go find a couple people on YouTube, go find a couple people on Twitter, talk to your friends that actually know what they're like, people that are in the space with you, not just like random people. And then also like look into the companies and like what are their services, like who are their partners, what's the team like behind them, and then like me and you can count on a single hand like the cryptos that we're in or interested in. It's like
Yeah,
we're very narrow with the amount of deep research we do.
yeah, yeah. You got to be calculated too, because you don't want to. There's coins out there I think are going to do super well, but I just haven't done the research on it yet, so I'm not gonna throw my money in it yet until I become comfortable with it.
Well, and we're not financial advisors.
And I would like to say that I'm not a financial advisor.
This is not financial
This
advice.
is strictly for entertainment
This is a
purposes.
hobby.
This is a hobby, and I'm not a financial expert. I don't know what I'm doing.
Neither do I,
Do
and
not
that's
listen to me.
why we're talking about it. This is
Yeah,
why me and you talk about it.
it's a
Because
hobby. Yeah, it's
the
fun.
hobby,
Yeah,
we're just out here. If anyone happens to listen to this and they get any knowledge or enjoyment out of it, we
dude,
love that.
there's
Don't
about
take
a
our advice.
1% chance that one person listens to this all the way through, because we have been on this for like
I
2
know.
hours.
Yeah, we've been on a freaking roll. Yeah, we're gonna cap it off here. But if anyone
Yeah,
has made it to this point in time,
yeah. Any
thank you.
questions?
Yeah,
We will do another one of these. I mean, I,
yeah.
I,
We'll
I
we'll try
left
to
out.
narrow it down. We need to like now that we're caught up, Matt. Now we can like dive into like the news, like the actual more news. Like I feel
Yeah,
like this was
maybe
catching people up.
we can do some, mini series that are like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because,
Yes, I like
I
that.
definitely left a lot out on Hedera. There's a lot more to Hedera and like Hashgraph than, what I covered. And also like Ripple X, like their
Oh
open
yeah,
developer platform. I
yep,
mean, I was digging into some of their partnerships the other day with this company called Forte, who's trying to create community
yep.
economics in games where, your Fortnite skin is no longer an expense where you pay $20 and you get it in game. You spend $20 and it becomes an asset. And then, it's like real life assets.
Uh,
And
oh, things are
that's,
getting weird.
there's going to be some, regulatory loopholes and just like stuff they're going to have to figure out there with taxes and all that. But I know that's a big thing right now. And once you can, create real life economy in video games, I mean, that is going to change.
Huge.
And that's just one part of the puzzle, or that's one small part of the puzzle. But imagine how big that impact is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, all
Like,
these little pieces are coming together. So hodl, and we'll see you guys
hodl, like, subscribe. Hodl,
on the
like,
moon.
subscribe.
Yeah. Hodl, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you have any questions, what you guys want to see next.
Yeah,
This was
drop a
episode.
comment.
Yeah, drop some comment. I think this is episode 7, Matt.
I wonder if
Episode
we'll get
7
any.
of Clay
I
and
wonder if we'll
Company
get any
podcast.
hate. I bet those these
Oh
guys don't know
yeah.
what they're talking. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're openly telling you guys. This is not financial advice. We don't know what we're talking about. But at the same time, if you do want to go to the moon, hodl.
Yeah. I mean,
Hodl tight.
to an extent, we do, some things we're talking about, So,
But yeah, just take all your money,
Lambo.
send it to me on PayPal. Everything will be fine.
I'll drop my wallet address below.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Matt signing off. Deuces, people.
Peace.